With the big Aeldari release day hitting us today and a load of gorgeous new models, not to mention their new massive codex being available right this second. So as a quick aside, if you do want to pick anything up, now I guess would be a good time to mention you can save some money by using a site like Element Games, and I do have an affiliate link for them, which I will put down below, so do go check that out if you want. But yes, the Aeldari are finally here with us, and from the various leaks and news and reviews we've seen, I think personally they are looking really quite strong, and also more importantly, very, very fun to play, with a whopping 8 detachments to really let you play the army exactly how you want to. Now, I will say right now as well, I unfortunately have quite a busy weekend and upcoming week. So whilst I really did want to do a full codex review video going through all of it and all the data sheets and the rules and everything, because it is such a big book, it's going to take me a little bit longer to write and record and edit and upload. So I am not going to be doing that just yet. My plan is still to get one done as soon as I can to go through all of that with you guys. But at the moment, I'm aiming to do a few shorter videos over this weekend and coming week to look at a few of the particular cool units and detachments and rules that I really like the look of before I can do a fuller combined video when I have a bit more time. So apologies if you were waiting for that. I just physically don't have the time to get it done this weekend, I don't think, and I want to do it properly. There is just a lot to go through, of course, being such a big codex. So in the meantime, we'll do a few videos about some smaller, more focused aspects of it. And today, although it hasn't been released alongside the other pre-orders today, we do know what the upcoming new Aeldari Combat Patrol is going to be looking like. It was leaked on Reddit a few days ago, so we know what is coming in it. And this new Combat Patrol, which is entitled Kygharil's Protectors, is actually a fairly solid little set of models. It comes with a Spirit Seer, who is leading 2 units of 5 Dire Avengers, a unit of the brand new Warp Spider models, and 5 Wraith units, which you will be able to build as either Wraithguard or Wraithblades, although in the actual Combat Patrol itself, it looks like they are going to be specifically the Wraithblade variant, but obviously for your regular games of 40k, you could build them as whichever variant you wanted to use. So compared to the old box from a few years ago, you swap in those aspect units for the loss of a Farseer, a 10-man Guardian squad, 6 Windrider jet bikes, and a Wraith Lord. So you do lose some quite cool units in the Bikers and the Stompy Walker, but overall you are moving from 19 models in the old box, including the Guardian weapons platform, to a beefier 21 models in this new one. And in terms of the points you get in this new patrol, we are going to be using the points from the new Aeldari Codex, although of course it is worth remembering those will likely, if not certainly, change in the next few weeks or so, because Codex points are always a little bit out of date by the time the Codex drops, unfortunately. But from what we know from the Codex as it stands right now, the Spirit Seer is 65 points, each unit of Dire Avengers is 70 points, the 5 Warp Spiders are 85 points, and then the Wraithguard or Wraithblades are 170 points. So all in, you are getting 460 points from this box, which means it is actually a fairly sizable bump in terms of points compared to some other combat patrols we've seen in 10th edition. Some of those have been dropped as low as, 330, 340 points for some of the armies. So they have, in some situations, been really quite a small, inconsequential amount of units in terms of their points. So a nigh on 500 point army straight out of a combat patrol box, I think is actually fairly nice for 10th edition. Now we do have to compare it to the old box, of course, which using the new codex points does actually come to a flat 500. So the old box does get you a tiny bit more value compared to this new one still, mainly because those 6 Windriders are a beefy 160 points, and then the Farseer is slightly pricier at 80 points compared to the Spirit Seer. But I think on the whole, it's not a huge change. It's not like it's dropped from 500 points to just over 300 or something. It is still a fairly good 460 points. So I think compared to the old box, especially if you are wanting and you like the idea of a more aspect themed or wraith themed Aeldari army, this new patrol does get you started in that direction a lot more effectively than the older box did. The actual units themselves as well are all quite good. I'm not going to go into super detail about the detachments and the units. As I said, we will cover those in a few other upcoming videos. But the Aspect and the Wraith themed detachments in this codex are both really quite fun and, in my opinion, decently powerful. And then the Aspect units themselves have had a fairly solid boost across the board, just in terms of their usefulness and power, I think, especially when you combine them with their brilliant new Phoenix Lord models and their updated rules. You can get a lot of use and strength out of some combinations of at least one or two of those units in your army. And I certainly think that if you were wanting to run an Aspect themed list, Dire Avengers with the new Assaman and Warp Spiders with their new Phoenix Lord Lycus are definitely things that you are going to want to add to your army. At least one unit of Warp Spiders and Lycus looks like it's going to be a must take at the moment. And I think Assaman himself looks incredibly good, so bringing him along with a unit of Dire Avengers is probably going to be a very good addition to most armies as well. In terms of costing price-wise, it's likely this box is going to be sitting at the standard £100 for combat patrols. We've seen that a lot lately, so that is my guess. And if you are looking at the savings you'll be making from this, the Spirit Seer at the moment is costed at £20. The new Warp Spider models are £40 for 5. The Dire Avengers, they're a slightly older kit, so they are currently £28 for 5, so £56 for the 2 squads of them. And then Wraithguard, they are also £40 for 5, like the Warp Spiders. So in total, you are looking at £156 if you bought all of these things separately, meaning this is roughly 64% of retail price, which is actually a fairly good saving. It's actually a tiny bit more than the usual 33-ish% we see. This is actually around a 36% saving, so a tiny bit more, but definitely significant when you also factor in you are getting slightly more points than you did in some of the other 10th edition patrols. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect because, again, if you compare it to some of the older 9th edition patrols, yes, the value has dropped across the board, where they tended to get slightly bigger discounts, in some cases up to, 40, 42%, and they also tended to get a bit of a healthier points value in the boxes. So compared to those older 9th edition boxes, yes, none of the 10th edition ones are as good. But as far as 10th edition combat patrols go, I do think this is one of the better, stronger, and more valuable ones that they've put out. It is a good amount of points, it is a solid bit of savings, and in terms of general usefulness, I think it's very good if you are wanting to run some of those classic Aeldari units like the Aspects and the Wraiths. So just in general, I have to say I'm a big fan of this patrol. I do think it's got a lot going for it. Would I buy more than one? I mean, potentially I would. I certainly think that you will probably not need 20 Dire Avengers, especially if you already collect Aeldari. So maybe if you are in that situation, getting 2 boxes might be a bit of a waste. But for someone like me that would be completely new to the faction and start with nothing, 20 Dire Avengers, 10 Warp Spiders, 10 Wraithguard or Wraithblades, and then 2 Spirit Seers, that's actually not an awful little starting list. Like, I would probably get rid of one of the Spirit Seers because you don't really need 2. But then if you get yourself Assaman and the new Lycus to go along with your Dire Avengers and your Warp Spiders, that could get you to a pretty character heavy, but actually quite fun, quite powerful, just over 1,000 point list right out the gate, which would be really cool to put on the board and get you quite a lot of strength in a 1,000 point army. I think it comes to around 1,100 points in total, so you may need to cut back a little bit. Maybe you only take 5 Dire Avengers in the other squad rather than the full 2-man units of 10, or swap a few other things around to get it to 1,000 points. But I think it gets you in the rough ballpark of a fairly good, fun 1,000 point list if you went that route. And then maybe if you added some heavy support, something like a Fire Prism, or even if you wanted to go all in on the Aspects, something like some Fire Dragons or Dark Reapers, you could very easily and quite quickly get to this really thematic and honestly quite powerful 1,500 point list using a couple of these combat patrols to get yourself off on the right foot. So I really like it, and I don't want to say I'm tempted to get one because I don't really need to start another army, but if I was ever going to do an Aeldari army, it would be an aspect focused one with a load of just pure aspect warriors, because that's what I've always loved about the Aeldari. I don't really care about the Wind Riders or the Guardians or the Wraith units, it's just the cool look of the aspects. So I would be quite tempted to get this one, maybe sell the Spirit Seer and the Wraith units and just use it as a great way to get started with those Warp Spiders and those Dire Avengers, and then look to add some more aspects into it. So I'm a big fan of it. I do like it. I think it is one of the better 10th edition boxes we've got so far. But as always, I'd love to know what you think of this new Combat Patrol, and how would you personally expand it if you were going to move up to 1,000 points or even 1,500 points. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.